The time is long overdue for there to be a center for medicinal plant conservation, especially at a time when we need plants not only for our own personal health as we see this industry grow, but also we need these plants to heal the ecosystem. Our center is located in one of the most biodiverse, rich regions on the planet for medicinal plants, and that's in the heart of southern Appalachia.
Emerald ash borer has come through here and is wiping out our ash trees, so we were a little proactive a couple years ago when we first started seeing the pest.
We've lost almost all of our ash trees here in southern Ohio, and what we decided to do was to harvest these trees, mill them just down the road, bring them back here, let them dry, and then really honor the history of the ash tree.
That was even really before the final design was done, but we just knew we were going to incorporate those trees into the building, so those discussions evolved into what we have now, which was a couple thousand square foot, 50-person classroom, Museum of Herbal Medicine in Appalachia. We're going to house the Jim Duke Library in there. We've got climate control now, so our herbarium specimens don't mold and our books don't mold. So
I was one of those people who was fortunate enough to be part of that herbal renaissance that started emerging in the 1960s. And at that time, there was really no consciousness of plant conservation. We loved the plants, but we were mostly thinking about what we could do with them and how we could make medicines with them and spread education about them. Herb stores were springing up, classes were filling up. Herbal product companies were growing and becoming very successful. It was really in my world travels that I began to see that cultures that had and countries that had a long tradition of herbal medicine often didn't have the plants anymore. They were a lot of times ordering them from North America or South America. And if they did have the plants, it was almost always because they were being cultivated and not in really good conditions. I was walking through my woodlands in Vermont, and I realized for the first time that many of those plants that should be here, like golden seal and ginseng, they weren't there. And literally, I heard the earth speak, plant us.
This moment is so monumental. It's monumental because we're here on the sanctuary that we dreamed. It's because we've created an organization, just a few people with just a thought. And because we were impassioned by what we did, and because we were willing to work, and work kind of endlessly, and sometimes occasionally thanklessly, but because of that, this organization has become a national organization and also is creating an international model for other countries to follow, and that's really remarkable.
We are more dedicated now than ever, now that I've been here, to be more assertive in the way that we communicate to perhaps a larger spectrum or bandwidth of the herbal community about the role that UPS is playing, the very important and a vital role in increasing consciousness about the need for people to be aware of the plant medicines that exist, where these plant medicines come from, and how we all need to be more mindful and more active and more committed to conserving environmental conditions and the way we behave on this planet.
When we went on this trip, we said that we're here for the plants. This is not a trip for us, this is a trip for our plants. We're obligated to go here. And part of our Anishinaabe culture, we say that this is our responsibility. We inherited this responsibility to protect our lands, and this ties completely into United Plant Savers' way of thinking and what they're doing, land preservation, teaching people about plants, teaching people how to farm it. So this to us is ground zero for everything.
I'm personally really interested, especially moving into ginseng country in Vermont, at looking at genetics and wild genetics and how do harvesters replant. Are they buying commercial seed? Are they changing the genotype in an area by doing so? And how can we also look at a scientific, research-based approach to influencing legislation around things like ginseng and golden seal. In this country, there's so many places where it's permitted, but very inappropriately in terms of long-term sustainability of these wild stands. And at the same time, there's also plenty of states that there is no permit process, and it's really just like a cowboy outlaw scenario. And I think that as scientists and herbalists can really band together, we have opportunity to be active in our local and state communities at providing more legal protections for these plants.
One of my big focuses within the framework of native plants that are threatened, figure out potential analogs that can be used similarly to things like ginseng and golden seal, but are much more prolific, maybe even what people might call problem plants, exotic invasives. And so United Plant Savers has really stoked that fire for me of how can we both combine this idea of preservation of certain plants with the idea of control of other plants, and really informed by this idea of permaculture. How can we turn a problem into a resource? How can we look at something holistically to find a solution?
A lot of students that come out here are city folks. I mean, we are halfway between Baltimore and DC, and these students have never been immersed in nature. And so for them to have a little bit of a place that's in a comfort zone, to have a place where there is a kitchen, have a place where there's some flush toilets, and also to have a place where they can immerse in their learning on a different level.
My mama started studying the herbs when she was just a little kid. She was 4 years old when my three greats Aunt Lula was teaching her about bark from the sunrise side of the longleaf pine being what you use at a particular phase in a woman's period. But I didn't learn this till I was 25 because Mama was trying to have us assimilate to be something greater. And I said, what greater could we be than our ancestral life that makes it possible for us to even be here? So what UPS is doing is really soul work for me.
Well, ginseng's getting rare, can't find it anywhere. We're gonna miss those sweet and bitter flavors. We're gonna do good deeds, go out and spread those seeds, and then we'll join United Plant Savers. Ginseng, ginseng, we got to sing along, ginseng.
I'm really grateful to see such a diverse group of farmers and scientists and medicine makers and home herbalists and gardeners and wildlife caretakers, all really focused on medicinal plant conservation and finding that unity and that common ground here.
Our vision looking ahead now that we have opened the Center for Medicinal Plant Conservation is really to take it to the next level, to be a model of what it means to grow a green economy based on medicinal plant propagation. And also we want to be able to propagate these plants so we can provide forest farmers with the plant material that they need to then grow these important medicinal plants in a sustainable manner within their woodlands. So this is really the next level of consciousness when it comes to the food and medicine that we consume.